In Sickness and in Health, Motherfucker, by Fyodor's Rat Colony 69. Summary. Dazai gets sick, so Chuuya has to take care of him. Dazai was not his usual self that day. Chuuya had noticed within 15 minutes of interacting with his partner that something was wrong. Dazai's words were quieter, his voice had a slight rasp, and he groaned quietly every time he moved his head too quickly. Chuuya also had observed that Dazai's face was less than chipper. "Hey, Mackerel," Chuuya said from beside Dazai as they walked. Apparently, there were people harboring Port Mafia supplies without permission from the boss, and the duo was gonna go deal with them. Dazai did not reply, staring forward aimlessly. "Mackerel! Mackerel! Oi, Mackerel!" "Yes, Slug?" Dazai finally responded, voice low and deeply annoyed. Chuuya huffed. "Are you alright, Dazai? You look like a kicked puppy." "You're the dog." "Shut up!" Chuuya stepped closer to Dazai. "Do you get enough sleep? I don't want my partner falling asleep on the job." Dazai's only response was a nod, but Chuuya noticed a slight wince from Dazai at the movement. "Are you sure? Your expression says otherwise." Dazai groaned in annoyance, fixing his deadfish eyes onto Chuuya. "I'm fine, Chibi. Are you worried about me or something?" Chuuya recoiled. "Absolutely not, jackass." Chuuya strode forward until he was walking in front of Dazai. "Come on, let's get this over with. Seeing your face makes me fucking sick." Arriving at the destination, Dazai and Chuuya observed a small gang of 15 teenagers. They were hauling goods such as jewels and cigarettes into large vans. Chuuya narrowed his eyes. "Wow, they're not even stealing weapons. I would expect a gang of children to take a liking to the Port Mafia's guns." Dazai cast Chuuya a sidelong glance, but stayed silent. This was unusual to Chuuya. Dazai never shut up. "Alright, you go hijack those trunks. I'll go kick some ass. Fine with you?" Dazai let out a small noise between a whine and a barely clear yes. Chuuya decided that it was a good enough response, and he nodded, slipping away with the intention to provide the gang with moderately painful injuries. Chuuya watched the last of the edgy brats run off in a screaming panic, acting exactly how a crowd of background characters would flee the antagonist of some movie. Chuuya smirked. However, Chuuya's satisfaction was cut short when he heard a thud on one of the trunks. Turning his head to the source of the sound, Chuuya was surprised to see Dazai collapsed on the ground, his back against the vehicle. Chuuya blinked rapidly, trying to comprehend the situation before he finally understood what the hell just happened. "That bastard! I knew he wasn't okay!" Chuuya speed walked over to Dazai and delivered a light kick to his side. "He's completely knocked out," Chuuya muttered to himself when he received no response. Chuuya stood in silence for a moment before he sighed, picking Dazai up bridal style. Dazai was heavier than Chuuya could like, but his ability rendered Chuuya's useless, so he held Dazai with his natural strength alone. "You're so lucky I'm not in a mad mood today. Otherwise I would have taken this opportunity to pelt your body with rocks." When Dazai opened his eyes, he whimpered at the blinding lights, closing his eyes instantly. After a while of awkward silence, he finally gathered the courage to sit up, opening his eyes and letting them adjust to the lighting. He felt like he had been hit by a truck. His body felt heat-stroke-worthy hot, and a hypothermic amount of freezing all at the same time. His head hurt like hell. He then registered where he was. Dazai was in a large bed in an empty room. He assumed it was saved for guests because of how plain it was. Dazai cocked his head. He didn't live in a house. He lived in a perfectly swell shipping container. Where was he? Dazai almost let out a startled yelp when he noticed the door to the room opening, but when he saw it was Chuuya, he jumped in his skin, biting his tongue to not make the embarrassing sound. "Chibi, who said you could just walk in here? Where am I?" He hissed, but he couldn't stay upset, because his head produced a sharp pain due to Dazai's movement, causing him to whine. "First of all, Mackerel, this is my house. Second of all, you need actual rest, so get your ass back to sleep." Dazai felt the urge to growl at Chuuya, but unlike a certain slug, he thought against such a childish act, instead assuming a better response. "No." Chuuya glared at Dazai like he wanted to throw him face first into the nearest wall. "Why?" "I'm not tired." Dazai muttered. Too bad. Before he could register it all, Dazai felt another weight in the bed. Chuuya sat in the bed next to Dazai and pulled Dazai up to lean back against his chest, arms snaking around Dazai's torso. Swear to God, Dazai, I will not have you collapsing during a mission ever again. So get your dumbass to sleep. I'll give you medicine when you wake up. Dazai wanted to protest, but the warmth of Chuuya holding him was alarmingly comforting, and so he leaned back against his partner. Why is Chuuya being nice? I am never carrying your ass to my apartment ever again. Slug is weak. Jackass. Chuuya moved a hand up to run his fingers through Dazai's hair as he looked anywhere but Dazai. Shut up and fall asleep already. This amazing fic was requested by the author themselves, Fyodor's Rat Colony, and I love this fic so much. It's so sweet, it's so them, like it's a serotonin boost in like 900 words, and I love it so much. Thank you so much, Fyodor's Rat Colony, for requesting me this amazing fic, and I'm so honored that you chose me to podfic it for you. For my listeners, reminder that you can and you are absolutely free to request any fic you want on my Tumblr, or, and this is the big news, I've joined Ko-fi. If you'd like to request any fanfic on there, it's available, it's open, and its link is down below. Basically, I'm planning things for my account on there, if you want to follow me. It's gonna be just like us. It's a cozy space, and I love new accounts for this. Like, the possibilities to do something in a new account are endless. So yeah, I'm planning to do some stuff regarding art, especially because I'm trying to practice art, and I think this will help me a little. I'm gonna do a series regarding that. Still didn't decide what the series are gonna be about yet, but there are stuff coming up on there. So make sure to follow, and I'll see you on there. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.